Today we're going to start discussing perimeter and area of rectangles and irregular shapes. You should have a graphic organizer that should match the presentation. Please make sure you take notes and complete it, as it will be due for a grade. Perimeter is the distance around an object. Some examples for perimeter are fencing and border. Anytime that you're going around it, you do not want to fill in the middle of it, just around the shape. Now, to find the perimeter, you simply add the measurements of each side together to find the total. Our first example is a rectangle that is 15 inches by 8 inches. To find the perimeter, you would add the 15 plus 15 for the bottom plus 8 plus 8 for the other side. Now, when you're doing perimeter and you're adding all the sides, if the shape has 4 sides, you need to have 4 numbers that you're adding together. When you add 15 and 15, you get 30. 8 plus 8 is 16. 30 plus 16 would be 46 inches. When you label perimeter, it's just simply the measurement that you used. For the triangle, there are 3 sides, so you need to make sure you add all 3 numbers. You're going to add 10 plus 10 plus 7. When you do all that, you should get 27 centimeters. I want you to find the perimeter of the arrow, and I would like for you to write that measurement in. Please feel free to pause the video to give you time to do this. Once you're done, you should have gotten a measurement of, let's try that again, of 37 7/10 millimeters. Here are 2 shapes. I would like for you to find the perimeter of these shapes and fill this in. These will be for a grade that is due tomorrow. Area is a little different than perimeter. Area is how much space a shape takes up. Some examples of area is finding carpet, or you're painting an entire wall. There are different ways to find the area depending on the shape. Today we're going to focus mainly on finding the area of a rectangle. Now, to find the area of a rectangle, you simply take length times width. In other words, you multiply how long the rectangle is by how wide it is. Now, the label for area is the unit squared to show how many small squares would fit inside the rectangle. When you multiply the length times the width, in our example of the rectangle 10 inches by 4 inches, you need to imagine or see how many 1 inch by 1 inch squares would go across and how many would go down. We would have 10 going across all the way down and then 4 down. In other words, you would have 10 by 4, which would give you 40 inches squared, or 40 inches squared. Now, I would like for you to look at this 2, this 2 right here. That should be written more clearly as an exponent. So that little 2 needs to be hanging up there for inches squared. What I would like for you to do on this page is I want you to draw little squares to fill in that red rectangle. I want you to see if you can get 40 of those little yellow rectangles in there. You don't have to color them yellow, but just see if you can draw them all in there. You might need to pause the video to give you time to do this on your graphic organizer. Here are some more examples of rectangles. Let's see if we can find the area of these rectangles. The first one is 4 inches by 12 inches. I want you to see if you can write an equation and then come up with the total area for this rectangle. Please pause the video while you do this. You should have come up with an equation that reads 4 times 12 equals y, and the y would be your total area, and you should have gotten 48 inches squared. What I'd like for you to do now is go ahead and do the other 2. Pause the video to give you time and they will be due when you turn in your graphic organizer. Now we're going to talk about finding the area of irregular figures. It would be perfect if every figure in the world was a rectangle. It would be much easier to find the area, but let's face it, that's not always the case. But you can use your new knowledge of finding area of rectangles to find the area of other shapes as well. Now look carefully at this shape. Do you see any rectangles? Well, do you see two rectangles? If so, you could find the area of each and then add them together. So let's do that way first. If you didn't see the two rectangles, or if you did, you could just draw the line right there, and then we have rectangle 1 and we have rectangle 2. Now, to find the area, you would take the area of rectangle 1, which is 10 inches times 5 inches, which is 50 inches squared. Area of rectangle 2, which is 6 inches by 4 inches, which is 24 inches squared. Add the area of both of those together, you would get a total of 74 inches squared. Now that's one way of doing it. Let me erase those and we'll talk about the second way. The second way is, do you see just one rectangle? If so, find the area of it and subtract the missing piece. Now the one rectangle is if you'd want to fill in this missing gap, and then you just have your one rectangle right there. Now there's your one rectangle. Well, to find the area we need to take length times width. Here's our width, but what would our length be that goes right up here? Well, to find the length of it, we know that this piece is 5 inches, and we know that if we keep going over it 6 inches, you can put those together and you would get your 11 inches. So the big rectangle itself is 10 times 11, which gives you 110 inches squared. Correct? All right, let me see if I can erase this, because now what we're going to need to do is now we need to find this little piece right here. And what we're going to need to do is subtract that from 110 inches squared. Well, we again need to find length times width. We have the length is 6 inches, but what we're missing is this piece right here to find out how long it is. Well, if we know that the whole top to the bottom is 10 inches, and we know that this part up here is 4 inches, we could subtract and find the difference, which gives us 6 inches. So this square here is actually 6 inches by 6 inches. So you're going to take 6 inches times 6 inches, which gives you 36 inches squared. If you take the total area of the big rectangle minus the little piece that is no longer in there, you would get 74 inches squared. Either method will work, whichever your preference is. If you'd like to add the two areas of the rectangles together, find the large and subtract the missing piece. It does not matter to me, whatever works best for you. Here you have two irregular shapes. I want you to use whichever method works for you, and I'd like for you to find the total area for both of these shapes. These are due tomorrow when you turn in your graphic organizer.